Welcome to The Prenup, the wedding-obsessed podcast designed to help you plan your dream day. I'm your host, Adriana, and each week I'm joined by the industry's top professionals, celebs, influencers, and friends who are sharing their best tips, advice, and mistakes they've made so you don't have to. The Prenup is a Love Stories TV podcast. This episode is brought to you by Honey Fund. Join more than 1 million couples on Honey Fund and start your fee-free registry at honeyfund.com today. We view weddings as these picture-perfect, pristine events, but there are so many laughs, happy tears, and heart that go into weddings that become overlooked. And while we want to reflect fondly on the finished product as this flawless, polished entity, we want to remember all the whimsy that made the day so memorable, which is why I'm so pumped to have Laur, and Laur, correct me on your last name, Ladouceur?
Ladouceur. So close.
Ladouceur. Okay, all right.
So
I'm trying
close.
to be French today. Laur Ladouceur of Plan with Laur, joining us on the Prenup podcast. Welcome, Laur.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for being here. It is such a pleasure. And, you know, the topic of a wedding day content creator has been coming up a lot lately. It's the hot thing. And I think by now, it's safe to say that any listener, watcher knows what a wedding day content creator is.
I hope so.
But humor us. For anyone who doesn't, my mom and my aunts, they'll probably be watching.
Totally.
So they might not know yet. So in your words, tell us what a wedding day content creator is.
Okay, so I always love to start with like the 30-second elevator pitch,
Yes.
right? So if you're like, what is it? Why do I want one? Why, like, what do you do?
Yeah.
I'm showing up with an iPhone, taking behind the scenes photos and videos, and we're delivering it within 24 hours. That's our like 30-second elevator pitch.
Gorgeous.
Right? Then what I like to say what we really do, is like someone who's there to capture memories. I think there's so much that goes on a wedding day. There are moments that you maybe plan, but you don't see. There are just kind of compromises that you have to make on a wedding day. And so I really like to say that wedding content creation allows you to help fill in a lot of those gaps. It's taking the moments of like you're crying but you don't know why you're crying. And later you're going to be like, wow, I love that I have this video of this really intimate moment or this funny moment or this in-between moment that may be not something that you typically see or typically remember, but that you'll really love having at the end of the day.
I love it. Absolutely wonderful. And what I love about wedding day content creation, what you do, and if I didn't mention that, Laur is, in addition to being just this wonderful wedding personality, and we'll talk about all of those things, but she does wedding day content creation. And it really, like you said, fills in those gaps. But whereas traditional videography is kind of cinematic in a way. It's this trailer of the day because that's what's popular in video right now. I think like who's watching their whole ass wedding video over
I
and
still
over?
haven't watched mine 3 years later.
Literally. Oh my God. Literally same. And I want it. It's not that I don't want it there, but I'm not going to sit back and pop it on the TV and watch this whole day. But I do have the trailer, that reel, like 2 minutes to a song, and it kind of encapsulates the entire day and the emotion. And it's a little bit more, I don't want to say dramatic, but it's more emotional. Whereas with wedding day content creation, we're getting these little snippets, these things that are filling in those gaps. And these moments that you wouldn't otherwise get in your wedding video because you're not going to sift through the whole thing to find them. Right. And your videographer isn't prioritizing that because it's not just about the artistry with wedding day content creation. It's about just making those memories.
Right. And I think it's one thing, I really love talking to my couples and I always say like, tell me who your photographer is. Tell me who your videographer is. You're choosing them because they have an eye that you love. They have something that you love. And I always say, let's make your wedding content so different from that. I think also the beauty of wedding content is I have some people that I work with, like I worked a wedding literally last weekend and she was like, I want this to feel like a movie trailer. Like I want, big cuts, these ideas. And I have other people who are like, I want you to, my niece is my favorite person in the world. I want so much of my wedding content to be around her and her interacting in the day. So the videos that we're making are her with her baby doll running around and doing everything, So I think that there's such a beauty of wedding content itself because you truly can make it into anything you want it. And a lot of the times we're doing a mixture of these really sentimental moments versus these really funny funny moments versus also kind of like a cinematic edit, because like who doesn't love a cinematic edit?
Of course. Yeah, you don't think of those things because and this is something that I say to couples all the time, but it is about the couple on the day. So,
100%.
Your photos with your bridal party, you're probably not going to look at a lot of them again. Like there's certain things that you're like, you really should prioritize the couple. But with what you do, you are able to kind of get that 360 view of the wedding and, the little idiosyncrasies that made it the day that it was. So do you get as I'm going to say a new kid on the block in air quotes because, I mean, really.
It's a new industry.
It's newer to the wedding world, right? Do you get any pushback from vendors who have been in the game a long time, maybe more specifically like anyone in photo or video?
Yeah, so we've had such a great relationship a lot of the times with photo and video, but I think our process is also very dialed in. Yeah. I will say like when we were starting, when I refer to my husband and I run this business. So he is on wedding day with me too.
Love it.
And he is a crazy man who does lots of things and runs around.
What's his name?
John Michael.
John Michael. Yes. Hi, John Michael.
But so I think one of the things that has really helped us is like when we first started in wedding content creation, we were knocking on doors. People did not want us to be there because I think it was hard to be able to really articulate the value. And so I say all of this to say it is a new industry. It is something new. Yes, we've been doing this for years. Mm-hmm. But it's still relatively new in the idea of what wedding is. And I think it's really important to understand that, traditional photography has been around for so many decades. And then that was disrupted by videography. But nothing really has truly disrupted the wedding industry for the past 30 years until wedding content creation.
Yes.
And so in that, I think when you start anything, there will always be resistance,
of course.
But I think, number one, we have a really our process is before we go into any wedding, we're meeting with photo and video. We're meeting with your planner or coordinator. We're going through, like, visual priority goes to the photographer and videographer. I always say, like, my camera is not going to be as good as a photographer. Like, I am not a photographer. I am not a videographer. They're going to get you incredible moments, What I'm doing is, like, behind them. What I'm doing is while the photographer is taking a photo of, like, your family, but, like, cousins over here, like, drinking a beer. That's what I'm taking photos and videos of, you know?
Yes, and you need that. You need that well-rounded because there's only so much that your bridal party or your friends can do.
100%.
And a lot of times I'll hear people say, well, I'll just have, my bridesmaid take this photo or that photo. You want them in that content. Like, you want them present 100%. On that day. And let's be frank, most of them don't have the eye that a professional is going to have. And I am seeing it become so much more popular now. But what you said about just being kind of a disruptor in the industry, you're so right. It's in any field. Like, anytime there's a shift, it'll give people pause. But I have found specifically with wedding day content creation that the people who are the most resistant and hesitant end up being the people who love it. They eat it up. Mom, grandmom, because they want to act like, be patient. They want those photos
immediately. I mean, there's sometimes that I'm taking photos and mom's like, oh, can you drop that to me? I'm like, yes, we're actively in the ceremony right now, but like directly after, 100%, it's all yours, you know?
But it's so true. And then they're the ones like, because they were so resistant at first, once they see what it actually is, they're the ones shouting it from the rooftops. 100%. Like, oh, their best friend's daughter's getting married. They're like, you need to hire this person. So it's just funny.
I always say that I love, with all my couples, I'm always like, add me to your bridal party group chat. Like, because like you leave the house, you're getting dressed, like you want a photo, you want some fun videos. And like afterwards, like I'm in it texting people and they're like, oh my God, this is great. So it's just fun. Like
Absolutely.
I think the cool thing about wedding content, and one thing that I know we always strive to do is like, yes, we're storytellers, and yes, we're bringing this like very professional side to what this can be. But like at the end of the day, it's fun.
Sure.
At the end of the day, we want to capture memories. I want your the people who are at your wedding to feel comfortable. And you do that by creating relationships, and with that, like then you get the best content.
Absolutely, and we're so in it when we're planning the wedding, right? It's like the stress, we'll talk about that too. Like our brides get so stressed and they just want it to be this picture perfect day. But you hit the nail on the head. Like it's a celebration, and this should be fun. This should be exciting. So bringing a vendor like you into the mix to really kind of ground it out, I think that is so fresh. It's just refreshing and fun. So I wanted to ask you also about the motion books. Do you guys ever do motion books?
I know exactly what you're talking about. I just sent some off to some clients.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I love that idea I have many people, and if anyone doesn't know what motion books is, this is not an ad. This is not like an affiliated, but you put any of your wedding video on this little book, and it's a coffee table book, and you open it up and it plays your video. Mm-hmm. But I was thinking about it before I was talking to you. I was like, oh, I'm sure Laur does that with a lot of her clients, because you could stack it up. You could have like your cinematic piece, and you could have like your silly stuff.
You can do like 40 minutes worth of video, which is great.
It's great.
And I think one of the cool things about wedding content is that you're getting, yes, these edited videos, but you're also getting all the raw photos and videos from your day as well.
Yes.
So it's a lot of video, and so I think it's a really cool way to be able to just like showcase and share a lot of it.
Absolutely. So what got you into it? Why wedding day content creation?
Man, how much time do you have? There's a lot of things that I think I'm a person who believes that things happen for a reason. And I think that a lot of things had to be in place. But when I really think about this, I'm reminded of my childhood. Okay. And so I grew up in a house with two elderly grandparents, one of them who had Alzheimer's. And I think that the way that I view what photos and videos mean, the role that they can play in somebody's life, but also in somebody's kind of end of life as well, is something that's always really stuck with me. And so, I mean, yes, I could tell you a story about I worked in corporate and I did this, and all of those are true, you know, but I think it really comes down to growing up in my household with my grandparents, watching them go through Alzheimer's, living with that and being, you know, a part of a caretaker in that process. Really, I, from that then on, always had a camcorder or a camera or something in my hand. And that changed into, you know, now it's an iPhone and what that looks like. And so so I've always kind of had that in something that I love. And then I was doing event content at a corporate level, and then the pandemic hit. And I think the pandemic in weddings specifically changed a lot of things. It changed how we gather. It changed how we showed up. It changed how we choose to do celebrations and who we invite and what that looks like. All of that kind of played together. And so when we started doing some of our first weddings after the pandemic, I was FaceTiming people in. You know, the role of the wedding day content creator, yes, now is this beautiful package, and this is what you're going to get, and this is what it's going to look like, and this is how you're going to feel. But really, when I like think back to what's the importance? Yes, there's a 24-hour turnaround. Yes, there's a social media component.
Sure.
But also, I think just the way in which we gather, in which we share, has changed so much. And I think wedding content really shows that evolution of that change. So like I was saying, those first couple of weddings, you know, post-pandemic in that way, we were FaceTiming people in. And
Isn't that wild?
Yeah. And we're sending, you know, I had messages that I was sending pictures. Okay, bride's in dress. Let me send this picture to grandma who can't be here. Or vows are happening. Let me send this to, you know, sister who's unable to make it or unable to travel. And so I always say that if we knew that wedding content creation was going to be what it was, we'd chosen a much sexier name, you know, because like, what is wedding content creation? But I think that really when it goes down to like showcasing and sharing those memories, that's really how it started and kind of the mission and the vision behind it. Then there's also the point that I was like, I want to be on the internet and let me be this influencer and let me do all of these things, and how and that also played into it as well.
Because you showcased your wedding planning process when you were getting married, right? So when did you get married?
2022.
Okay,
yes.
Okay.
Yes,
so
yes.
Tell me a little bit about your wedding.
Oh, no. Our wedding, we got married in New York City. My husband and I met in college.
Okay.
And kind of traveled all over, but New York always was an itch to be home. And so we knew when we officially moved here that we wanted to get married. It's funny. We had an incredible planner, but we booked the wedding venue before, number one, we had moved to New York, and two, before we were engaged.
Stop.
So it was so funny because I kept telling John Michael, like, well, we're getting married on this day.
Yeah.
Whenever you propose, that one's up to you.
Yep.
You know, I don't really care, but like we do have a set date of when we're getting married.
That is great.
And I also think too, I did not understand the importance of wedding content until my own wedding, even though it was something that, you know, we were doing and we were doing event content and all these things. I didn't see the true value of it or understand the true magic of it until my own wedding. And so we had members of our team come and shoot my wedding. And that was the first time that we really got into the weeds of like our templates and our timelines and what are we doing and who are we working with and all of those things, which, you know, it's kind of a little bit of a guinea pig, you know, to where the business is today. But I remember, you know, we did this and I had a community online at the time and we were posting live stories and we were getting live reactions and we're live tagging vendors and they're tagging. And so many people were like, this is incredible. Will you do this for me? And I was like, you guys are interested in this?
Yeah.
Like, you really want this? And we posted a TikTok. We got like 50 inquiries overnight and here we are.
Isn't that amazing? So is that the point where you realized, okay, this isn't just this kind of trend. This is something that this is a gap in that needs to be filled.
Yeah. I mean, I think sillily, is that a word? Whatever.
It is now.
You know, I think I always understood what it could be.
Yeah.
But I don't think until I went through the process myself, like I said, I didn't understand the importance.
Yeah.
And I didn't also know if this was something that people wanted. I knew how much it meant to me.
Yeah.
Being someone who's in the social media side, being someone who does actively post their life online. And but I would say like about 80% of our couples, like you never see the wedding content that is posted. They are not people who are actively online. So I knew immediately, like we got a lot of influencers, kind of celebrity couples who were like, let's do this. And I was like, boom, love this, background marketing, background in social media. I get to scratch this part of my brain. Let's make your wedding go viral, you know? Yeah. And then on the same coin, there are so many people who are like, but I also want these memories and I also want to be able to relive this the next day and I want to be able to see all of these moments and these candid parts of my day. And I think that's the part that surprised me a little bit more. And it's also been so fun now to be a part of those celebrations, whether people decide to post or whatever they want to do with that.
Yeah, I think that's such a common misconception that wedding day content creation. We need a sexier name for this. And I think
we can't now. Too much SEO, too much background,
I know. And I think it because it was so new, it was like we need to describe exactly what it is. Right. And like that, here we are, you know. Maybe we can hyphenate it. Or not hyphenate it. My brain doesn't work. What am I saying? Like WDC C's.
Yeah, something.
Something.
We'll figure it out. We'll make the merch. It will look really cute.
It'll be so cute. But I think people imagine that wedding day content creation is just for influencers or internet personalities, celebrities, the like. But you said 80% are not in that realm. Yeah. That is fascinating.
Yeah. I mean, at least for us. That's I can only speak to our business.
Well, I hear other people say similar things. And just based on your description and what I see of it, it makes total sense because whether we like it or not, our phones, they're a part of our everyday life. They're built into our worlds and for better or for worse, here we are. But we're so used to looking at our vertical content and no, we don't always want to pull up, you know, something from a file that we have saved or a flash drive and plug it into our computer and watch it that way. Like sometimes we just want to like roll it up and remember and watch it in the way we're used to.
I also say like, I mean, I don't know what other people's friends do, but like my friends for birthdays, like always will send like embarrassing photos to one another, you know, like in a text message group. And so I'm always like, you will now have a million photos, like embarrassing or not embarrassing, you take your pick. But to be able to send or to be able to share or to be able to have, you know, and I think your wedding is such a day, like this is very tried and true. Everyone, I don't know if everyone knows this, but everyone says that you'll never have this group of people in a room together ever again in your life. You may have factions of this group, but the group that you bring together for your wedding is a special one, you know?
Yes.
It just will never be the same. People's lives change and, you know, life moves on. And so I think it's such a fun, not just fun, but I think there's so much beauty in wedding day content creation. But
the part
of it is to be able to like memorialize that in fun ways, in dance floor videos, we run around with tiny mics and like, you know, and how people say crazy things, you know, but they're so fun. And those are the things that I think that, you know, I can make a great cinematic edit and love it. But like the thing that people love are like, oh my gosh, you got this person saying this. That's a crazy thing, you know?
It's hysterical. And what I love about the tiny mic thing, it kind of brings back a little bit of a retro vibe, because if you ever watch, you know, my parents' wedding video, it's like the videographer's going around. It's like, Uncle John, what do you have to say to the couple? But, you know, it brings that element back into it, but in a modern way.
Totally.
And, you know, it's a fun twist, but it ties everything together.
And I think also, to your point, and like we've been socialized in social media, but I think also people are comfortable in front of phones. You know, they're comfortable in like how, when they go on group trips, how they're taking pictures and they're making their own. I mean, like we grew up in the era of the vlog. Like everyone wants to be a vlogger, you know, in their own way, whether it's something that they're putting out on the internet or just something that they're keeping for fun stories with their friends, or, you know, something that they're going to show later. And so you just get to Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So I would imagine that many, if not most, of your couples are a little bit more on the cutting edge side of things, more I don't want to say influential, but they must have had some eye or idea that they're like, yeah, this new thing, like we're going full throttle into it. So they probably do some really fun things with their weddings, right? Mm-hmm. And you see everything. You're with them all day. Like you're in it, girlfriend. Yeah.
So what have you seen lately that you were like, oh my God, I love that. Like that should be something that everyone does at their wedding.
Okay, this is the last wedding that I shot. I don't know if everyone would do this. Like I wouldn't personally do this because I have a fear of helicopters, but like that's a personal thing.
Totally.
But I love the idea of it. So this couple that I just worked with, they did a helicopter send-off. And so they ended their wedding, and then a helicopter landed, and then they ran onto the helicopter, and then they did like a 45-minute tour at night of it was in Atlanta, and then they came back and, you know, the helicopter landed. Okay, first off, I thought it would be very expensive, but it's like not that, like you would think like, oh, this is like $10,000. Not at all. Like just, It's really not that expensive, number one. But number two, more of the idea that I love, because like, again, I'm not someone who would personally get in a helicopter, just like my own things.
For sure.
But I love the idea of like, I really feel like a lot of the times you see a send off and it's like, oh, they take a 10-minute car ride and then they drop them off and everyone's like, okay, goodbye.
Yeah.
But I love the idea that they got like right after your wedding, there's so much going on. They got like 45 minutes just to hang out, you know? And I think that a wedding day goes by so fast and there's so many moving parts and you don't want to miss any pictures and you don't want to miss family and friends who are here. So I love the idea of them like doing something that wasn't just, oh, go back to the hotel room, like do whatever you do in a hotel room. You know, like it wasn't just like that, you know? It was more like, let's really, you know, like have this final moment together where we can like hold hands, be present on our wedding day, still be in our dress and our tux and like kind of be like, oh my God, we just got married.
Totally.
You know?
Oh, that's such a good idea. And, you know, for anyone.
It could be in a limo. It could be, there's so many, it doesn't have to be in a helicopter.
It doesn't have to be a helicopter. I mean, it can be. I think probably the most logistics thing is like figuring out the landing pad.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And again, this venue had a helicopter pad, which is
fabulous.
Yeah, it worked out great.
Makes things easy.
Exactly. Which is why I'm saying it's less about the helicopter, but more, I really love the idea of like doing a send-off. And it's not just like, okay, do a send-off, now everyone go home or go to meet at this bar. Like doing something where you get to spend that intentional time.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, that is really what it's about. And you want to be able to share those memories. And, you know, ideally you spend the entire night together, but there are moments where you split. And it's like, oh, did you see this person, that person, whatever. And just being on the topic of you being, you know, in it, you do so many weddings, you see so many different things. Is there any part of a wedding that you really love, whether it be like a certain culture or religion or whatever?
Yeah. Okay, so two things come top of mind for me. The first one are private vows. That has been something that I have really seen take off over the past like 2 years.
Yeah.
It's not new. Mm-hmm. I like to say that like very few things in weddings are actually new.
Yeah.
You know, like we're kind of always recycling, which is a beauty of it, you know?
Of course.
But I really love private vows. It's been one of my favorite things and something I've actually kind of like pushed a lot of my couples to do.
Yeah.
Very much in the same vein. So if you were having a first look or a first prayer or first touch or whatever you're going to do, at that same time reciting your vows. And I have just loved it. I know, like, when I read I blacked out. You know, I don't remember what I said.
Of
you know,
course,
like,
yeah.
thank goodness we have video of it, or like would have no idea. Or I remember the next day, like, being like, so what did you say in your vows? You know, I just think whatever it is, whether it's a fear of public speaking, whether it's just nervous.
Emotions are high too. I remember
100%.
same thing with even when my husband proposed. I was like, I don't know what you said. I remember it was nice, but whatever. Yeah, I don't remember.
So I love it. I love when you take that time. I always tell couples, build in an extra 10, 15 minutes into a first look or whatever it is to just have time together. You know, you're going to be pulled in different directions. That's a wedding day, especially if you have a wedding that is a little bit more of a production when there are lots of moving parts and lots of moving vendors. I love it. You know, like they're so fun. They're focused on your guest. And I think that there's a beauty to that. But I really love seeing personalized vows.
Yes.
I think, again, you just get to have a moment together. One-on-one, you get to hear a lot of couples that I work with will then also go on to say their vows during their actual ceremony.
Yeah.
And some will choose just to do, you know, the more traditional realm of vows. But I really love private vows. And also I will say, like, secretly they make for great photo video moments. So like,
sure.
you know,
Absolutely.
I'm
It's
not
a
mad
win-win.
Yeah, win-win on that one. I'm not mad about it. And I also really love, I've started to see at a lot of like rehearsal dinners or welcome parties, especially if you're blending two different cultures. It's been really fun. I just worked one where the bride was Haitian and the groom was Nigerian. And they both, like, they kind of had like a little bit of like a cook-off between their two families.
Oh my God, how cute is that?
And so, like, you know, on one side they had all this Haitian food and on the other side they had all this Nigerian food, and kind of like, you know, made it a little bit of a game, kind of in a very fun way. Number one, I thought it was a great way to include family.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Which family just wants to be included on your wedding?
That's all.
90% of like wedding drama is people just wanting to feel included.
Literally. Yes. Yeah, you're so right.
So that I thought just was really cool to see those, getting to see both the family members like be so excited. And also, again, this is like where my husband was like, this is the best food I've ever eaten. Like running around from each side. I'm like, you know, we do have to work this, you know, like, but it was just really cool to see that. And also it made for just, I think anything you can do to make your, not make, but have your guests meet each other, interact with one another, really leads into a really fun wedding day. You know, when people feel that they've met someone, can dance with someone, feel a little bit more comfortable having a drink with someone. That's less of like a trend and more of just like something I think is really cool.
Yes. I love it. So. And that is really, really good advice, because a lot of times when there's different cultures or religions, there's almost, I don't want to say a competition for who's going to be the alpha of it, but sometimes it does feel that way, because certain parents are like, well, of course we're going to
100%.
do ours, and the others feel the opposite way. So blending it together and just saying like, hey, we're going to do our new own traditions, and especially bringing food in. I mean, who doesn't want to eat?
Exactly. And then it was really cool too, because then you got to see, you know, each of them had their own traditions that happened the night before. And so a mixture of those, you know, which I just thought was really cool for everyone involved.
Definitely. Yeah. And, you know, it's not a trend, but I wanted to talk to you about trends, because
I love it.
We see things come in and out of fashion. And I just want to, for a moment, destigmify the trends.
Yeah.
Like, trends are what they are. They're a moment in time, and they're indicative of a period that you loved this thing that people were doing at weddings and you wanted to incorporate it. Like, you know, shoulder pads and wedding dresses 100%. In the 90s, or like those, you know, those pointy veils that women used to wear. Yeah. So like something like a neon sign. I love them. I still think they're great. But I would say that's more of like a trend than something that is going to stand the test of time. Is there anything that you're seeing come into fashion that is perhaps like maybe being touted as a trend, but you think might have longevity, or you think it's having its moment as a trend and leave it in 2024 and we'll find something in 2025?
Yeah. Well, I think to your point, I think kind of everything is a little bit of a trend,
sure,
you know?
Sure.
And I also think too, like, it's not a bad thing if your wedding is like trendy.
Totally.
Or like it's not a bad thing if your wedding is, I think there's so much like stigma of like, my wedding has to be timeless and you should never be able to tell. And I'm like, no, but like it's okay if you do.
Yeah.
You know, like it's okay if
you
we
did
knew
get
your
married in a time.
Correct. Like, you did get married on a specific date in a specific year, and that's okay.
Yes.
I think the first thing that comes to mind for me are bows. Bows are hot right now. Bows are fun right now.
Yes.
And I definitely think it's a trend that we're seeing it take over.
Yeah.
I still think you'll see it for longevity just because bows have always been a part of weddings, you
Sure.
know, like, and so I think that that's something that is a trend that we're seeing that I don't know if it will stand the test of time or not, but I think it can be done very beautifully. And something, I also think a trend that I hope continues to stay is bridal parties getting to choose whatever they want to wear. You know?
I know. I love that, Laur. It should just be written in some sort of Bible.
Like that needs to be in the wedding contract, right? Like we sign a venue contract. We also need to sign like if I'm going to be in your wedding, I have to be able to choose my own dress.
1,000%. Yeah.
So I think I love that as well. That's been really cool to, number one, have been in weddings and have been told what you have to wear, to now what that looks like as friends are getting married, to just be like, show up in whatever. And I'm like, oh, thank you.
Thank God. Yeah,
you know,
seriously.
That, and then also just in the sense of, I think that at the end of the day, the wedding is about the couple who's getting married. But I always like to say that like your bridal party is your photos, you know, not all of them, but they are in a lot of your photos. If they're standing up at the altar with you, they will be in those photos. On the dance floor, they're in those photos. And you want to like hang those photos on your wall. So you want your friends to feel like beautiful and sexy and confident. And you want them to feel their best, because when they feel their best, they're going to love the photos, you know?
It's 1,000% the truth.
You know, like they're going to love the photos. Like when they love their hair and their makeup, like they are going to want to be in front of the camera. They are going to want to be up there. But if they feel not like themselves and uncomfortable and very kind of out of place, most people I don't think will make it a big deal because it's your wedding and they recognize that like, hey, I'm not the center of attention. But they might not love all the photos and videos that come from it.
Absolutely. And they're going to be in their head. Like when you feel confident, gorgeous, you move on, you have fun. But when you're feeling a little off, hairs are out of place, you're not wearing
you're
something
a little bit more stiff.
Yeah, you're like, that's kind of all you're thinking about. It's like, oh, is everyone looking at the way like this seam is out on my dress? Like you just start thinking about it. And to your point, it should be that everyone is thinking about what's happening on the day, which is the wedding. Like 100%. You shouldn't have to be in your head. So it really is a selfless move to let your bridesmaids wear whatever they want. Yeah. I think that comes with age though too. And not to say that young people don't do this, especially, you know, Gen Z loves like whatever is hot and is going with the new things. But I think once you get to a certain point in your life, it's like, okay, I don't want my friends to have to all wear these matching outfits. Like,
totally.
And that's not a knock to anyone. Some people choose gorgeous dresses and it really, really works well. There's exceptions to every rule, but I think as a
it's a trend we like.
It's a trend we like. It's a trend we like. Oh my gosh. Okay, so you do weddings. You do weddings all over, right? Okay, so have you chosen so far a favorite place or kind of place?
To like a location to get married?
Location to get married, sure, yeah.
I'm partial to a New York City wedding.
Are you?
I am. I just love a city wedding. Wow, we're ready. I just love a city wedding. Again, I love New York. I, as someone who was not born here but now loves being here, like there's just a beauty to it. There's a little razzle dazzle. It's a little chaotic because it is New York City. So like there's chaos in it. But I do love it. But I will also say I've been like very surprised. Okay. You know, I think there are certain places like, you know, when we're shooting like a Tuscan villa, you know, like that's beautiful and in its own sense. And, you know, but we did a wedding last year in Greensboro, North Carolina, which are just kind of like, where is that? And like one of the most gorgeous weddings, you know? So like I say all this to say, like, your venue also dictates so much of your wedding day and the backdrop of all of your photos and videos. And
it's a major player.
I think it's like one of the first vendors you should
absolutely
book and have and like,
Yeah, once you have your venue, like I think even venue comes before dress.
Oh, 100%. Because certain venues, dresses fit into different venues.
Totally. So, Laur, you start your day with the brides. Like you're there.
Morning. It depends on, what your is. But I mean, like most of the time I'm there like 9 a.m. Like, what's up, guys?
Yep. You're bringing the energy. You're coming in hot. But I'm sure you see some couples maybe get worked up a little bit, have a little bit of nerves. Mm-hmm. So if and when you see that happening, could you give any kind of advice for couples who maybe are feeling like, oh my gosh, I am so scared to walk down the aisle in front of everyone, because I hear that a lot, or any kind of just general jitters about the day. Do you have any advice for those kinds of people?
I think the best advice that I can give to help calm nerves on a wedding morning is keep it as routine as possible. And I know that sounds crazy coming out of my mouth when you're like having professional hair done and professional makeup done and you're in a new place and you have 10 people are running around. But anything that you can do to have a sense of normalcy. My husband and I woke up and had breakfast together the morning of our wedding because I was like, we have breakfast together every single day. Do that. I worked with a couple who they take their dog on a walk every single morning. So like they woke up and they took their dog for a walk. Yeah. I understand that like your like normal morning isn't like hair and glam. If it is, let me know what you do so that like I can also do that.
I'm going to come.
Right. Yeah. I actually would love to be there. But I think anything that you can do. So whether it's the food that you're eating, whether it's, I just shot this wedding in New Orleans and you could tell bride was getting overwhelmed. And so I just looked at her. I said, what do your mornings look like? And she was like, oh, I'm alone most morning. I was like, cool. Everyone out of this room. Unless you are hair makeup, out.
Yes.
Yeah. And so for that next 45 minutes as she was really getting into her hair and makeup, it was calm. And it was, again, I mean, it's just not going to be a calm morning. It's not going to be a normal morning.
No, it's far from normal.
Right. But anything I think that you can do to help that, I've seen brides who will wake up and they'll go and work out because that's what they do, or they'll go and swim because they're like on a beach or whatever it may be. So I think anything that you can do to try and help with that is important. And I also think that the people who are there with you in the morning are really crucial to like what your mental status will be. As someone who is like probably way too close to their mother, we are like actually the same person.
Can never be too close. Love you, Mom.
Yeah, thanks, Mom. But I remember in the morning like turning to my best friend, who she's the only person I could do where I was like, keep her away from me. Yeah. In the best of ways, just because I know exactly what she's going to say and what she's going to do. Or I was more like, give her a job, aka like, please have her steam everything.
Keep her busy. Yeah.
Because she's a tinkerer, know? And that's why we love moms, Of
course.
And she made sure everyone brushed their teeth and like everyone was fed and, but I think also to really thinking through like the people that you'll have there is important on both sides, guys and like bride and groom, whoever the couple is. I think that's really important.
Yeah. When you said like building routine and you're talking about like, go for a swim or a dog, it just always reminds me, how much emphasis we put on the ladies, especially the glam. And then the guys are out and they're usually golfing or doing something chill. They're not getting ready for like till an hour before. I'm like, why can't we have that?
Yeah.
Why can't we have nice things? We can.
You can,
Totally. You can do the day however you want. Just because every wedding you've ever been to or in has been done this way, you can change it. It's
advice I always give my couples is that like you are in charge of your wedding day. Like I as a vendor am here to give you tips. I'm here to help guide you. But at the end of the day, like if you don't want to do something, like I always have to like remind people like you're in charge.
Yeah.
Like don't let any vendor bully you. Mm-hmm. Bully may be a strong word, but like don't let anyone bully you to feel like you have to do it one way or it has to be done in one instance. Like if there's something that you want to do, that's what it will look like. Now, again, I think the vendor team that you choose helps determine the success of your day and how it runs and everything that goes into it. And you're hiring these people for their expertise, but you also get to dictate what your day looks like.
Yeah, you're paying them.
Yes.
You're the boss here. So you're so right. And yeah, I think sometimes people feel a little bit of pressure, either whether it's people pleasing or they feel like they
100%.
just don't know. But like figure out what you want and go for it, and trust your team after that. Because
100%. And it might mean that you have to compromise on something because of it. You know?
Sure.
And so if you're like, I want to, let's say, swim in the morning.
Yes.
That might push back hair and makeup, which means you might not get a first look, or you might not get a hour-long portrait session before the wedding day. You know, and I think in weddings there's lots of compromises. And so if you're just willing and open and know that.
Yeah, weigh the priorities a little bit.
Exactly.
And then because you are the hype girl, like you are the energy here. When people are getting ready for their weddings, not just on the wedding day, but in the time leading up to their wedding, I always love to recommend watching like a wedding rom-com or something like that, like leading up. Do you have any hype traditions or anything that you recommend to brides that they should be doing before their wedding to get them jazzed?
Yeah. So I really think that so much of it is like leading into the weekend. So the first thing that I like to say is that like the week of the wedding, like set boundaries.
Yeah.
I mean, you should have boundaries like at all times in your wedding, but like really the week of, like say, hey, after Wednesday, I'm not touching DIYs, or I'm done working on this, and like really just start getting excited, you know, and like start posting in your group messages and start watching your rom-coms, listening to your playlist. I also think like the night before the wedding is so exciting. And so many times I feel like people like run off because they're like, oh, I have to go finish this or I have to do that. And I'm like, go to a bar with your friends. Like, you know, like have a sleepover, you know, go back to your house and play with your dog, whatever, you know. But like to really, I think so much of it starts even before the actual morning of.
Yeah.
And I'm also a proponent of like, if you need a good cry, like come in, cry in the morning, get it out. And then like we're turning on your favorite music and like we're dancing. And then we're going to get into the routine of the day.
Fabulous. Oh, I love it. It's such good advice. Planning a wedding can get expensive quickly, which means there's not always a lot left in the budget to put toward your honeymoon. That's where a honeymoon fund with Honey Fund can help. As the most trusted honeymoon and cash registry, Honey Fund makes it easy for your friends and family to contribute to all parts of your dream getaway, from airfare to hotels to attractions or even candlelit dinners. It's a classy way to ask for cash so you can start your marriage with some extra funds for your amazing new adventure. Start your registry at honeyfund.com and make your honeymoon happen. Click the link in the episode description to get started. Laur, every episode, we do something here called premarital counseling.
Ooh.
And one of our listeners will write in and we take that either question or whatever they're writing and we give them a little advice. Are you up for the challenge today?
I love it.
Okay, good. So we always change the name. We keep it anon.
Perfect.
We're going to call her Julia today. Hello, Julia. Okay. Julia says, I'm becoming increasingly resentful of my fiance as he has done virtually nothing to help with wedding plans.
Ooh, okay.
He talks about being excited for the wedding, but anytime I ask for help with a project or planning, he acts like a big baby and shuts down. I end up telling him to just forget it, and I do it myself because I don't want to deal with him. This is not typical behavior of him. He usually takes initiative on things that need to get done. He's quick to help when I need him. But our wedding is coming up, and I feel like I'm just going to be reminded of all the things he didn't do. How can I get through to him before the wedding, or how can I get past this and not be resentful?
Yikes.
Well, you work with the hubs, so like, but he doesn't sound like.
Okay, so I married a golden retriever. But I will say this was kind of something that we went through.
Okay.
And I again, I think like my first question, because I'm always like, let me ask more questions type person, is like, I would want to know, like, I wonder why he feels so resistant right now. Like, is there familial pressure? Is there financial pressure? Is there, you know, like where does that kind of lie?
There's some kind of blockade.
Right. There's something there. And it also could be, and I remember, you know, with my husband and even with other couples that we've worked with where people are like, the wedding mattered so much to one person in the relationship that they were just like, am happy to help, but I want this to be your perfect day, you know?
Yeah.
And so like, I don't want you to feel like if I had a contrasting opinion or if I had a contrasting thought that it was going, like I've seen how much and how hard you've worked, that I wouldn't want to come in and like bulldoze your idea or say I hated it after you've spent hours and I'm just like looking at one photo, you know?
Definitely. Yeah, he might even be worried about infringing on things because it sounds like you're a doer and you get it done and you have a vision, which we love.
Yeah.
But he might feel like, okay, this is too important. Like weddings are these things. There's no room for error. We have to be so perfect. So that could be it. But I mean, when it comes down to it, as with most things, like as hard as it is and as annoying as we do have to communicate with each other sometimes.
Yeah.
But I think like a conversation of like, hey, I'm sad that you're not helping me.
I think this 100% needs to be discussed before you go into the wedding because I do think that like weddings are such emotional times. And like I think a lot of kind of how you think about the wedding afterwards is based on how your planning process went, you know?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know, I tend to find that couples who say that they were super stressed during the wedding planning process kind of afterwards are like, oh, I'm so glad it's over. Like, you know, like great day, but like so glad it's over.
Totally.
So I think number one, that's really important. And then I also think number two, like finding like what does he care about, you know?
Yeah.
Like for me personally, I could have cared less about what napkin colors we had at our wedding. So I literally told my planner, just choose them. I don't care. This is the vision. This is what we're doing. That's what it is. My husband is a huge foodie. Okay. And so like food for him, I was like, great. You work directly with the I don't
take care of it.
I don't care. Yeah. I don't even care what we eat, you know? So I think finding things, whether it's a big decision like food or maybe something smaller like your drink menu or your signature drinks, like what is something that like he loves that he can have full responsibility of. That would be like try to find something that he loves.
I like that. Yeah.
And how can he have full responsibility of that on a wedding day?
Yeah.
Or in the process.
So much of the wedding planning is a design focus. So if that's not his niche or interest, he might be like, oh my God, I need to go back into my shell and like, hide from this. That was really good advice, Laur. Thank you. And we're with you, Julia. We love you. Thank you for writing in. So, Laur, before I let you go today, this went so fast, by the way. I
could talk for forever.
I love hearing you talk. You have a beautiful voice and face, and I just would keep you forever if I could, but I know you're busy. But every episode we do what's called an after party, and they're just like fun wedding questions. They don't have to be about, anything personal or any of your brides, just generals. Yeah. So the first one is, what is your top honeymoon recommendation?
Okay, so as someone who has not taken their honeymoon yet.
You haven't yet?
No.
Why?
Life.
I know, but you gotta do it.
It's on the plans. We made it our goal for this year to at least like book a planner or something to make, or like plane tickets or something.
Do you know where you want to go?
I love the idea of South Africa.
Oh, yes.
But I also love the idea of New Zealand.
Oh, yes.
So those are my top.
They're contenders.
They're contenders.
Fabulous. Yeah. Anywhere that you've been that you love that you could recommend to couples?
So I mean, so much is like, what do you want? Adventure, beach?
Totally, yeah.
We just did Alaska.
Ooh,
and
fabulous.
I loved Alaska. It was kind of much more romantic than I thought. I don't know what I thought Alaska would be.
Really?
But I loved it.
What was it like, by the way?
So we went in the like July, August timeframe.
Okay.
So it's not like snowy Alaska, which again, I think I just had like, but it
that's
was
what I think too. Yeah.
But it was a lot of like hiking, a lot of like breweries, a lot of like boats and,
Did you go all over or were you in a concentrated area?
Yeah. So we went to like 4 or 5 different locations while we were there. And it was, it just surprised me about how much fun we had.
Oh my gosh. Oh, that I would have never considered it, but I'm going to maybe take that recommendation. Okay. Question number 2. What is your dream wedding cake flavor?
Oh, I love red velvet.
Ooh, yeah. Yeah, with a little cream cheese. Frosting. Oh, delish.
Love it.
What about a song that's going to get you on the dance floor at a wedding?
Oh, no. Honestly, probably anything Beyonce. That's probably going to be my go-to.
Do you have a favorite Beyonce?
Well, Cowboy Carter recently came out, so I'm very into Cowboy Carter right now.
Okay.
But my favorite Beyonce song is Before I Let You Go.
Oh, I don't know if I know that
I don't
one.
know if it's when she did Coachella or Baychella. It was one of the songs, like I think she made it for Baychella. And like now it's just for me, like what I listen to all the time.
Yeah.
You know?
Ooh, okay. Love it. I'm going to have to listen to that when you go. All right, Laura, last question I have for you today is if you could give one piece of practical advice to any couple planning a wedding, what would you tell them?
Hire a planner.
Yes.
Or just someone that you should not be the point of contact on your wedding day.
My gosh.
That's whatever it is, planner, coordinator, whoever. Number one, you should not be the point of contact on your wedding day. And number two, you should put your phone up at about noon. There's no reason, in my opinion, for the people who are getting married to have their phones.
Yeah, everyone
or
you
to
know
need them.
is there and like.
Exactly. So put it on airplane mode. Give it, if you're like, my phone is my emotional support blanket or like what I need to have, great, give it to a friend. But there, to me, is no reason that you need to be on it or that you've hired people there to help execute on your day. And you get this one day and everyone will tell you to soak it in and it goes by so fast and all of those things. And I think anything that you can do to relieve that distraction is so worth it.
Oh, it's such good advice. Laura, you are wonderful in every way.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. Where can everyone find you?
I am everywhere at Plan with Laur. Laur is the Laur part of it. You can find me anywhere.
Wonderful. Well, if you don't already follow, give her a follow along. And thank you again for being here.
Thanks
this was
for
so much
having
fun.
me.
This episode is brought to you by Honey Fund. Join more than 1 million couples on Honey Fund and start your fee-free registry at honeyfund.com today. Thanks for tuning into the Prenup. Don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform or on the Love Stories TV YouTube channel. Follow at _pre_nup and at Love Stories TV on Instagram for more. Have feedback or suggestions for the next episode? Feel free to reach out to us at podcasts@lovestoriestv.com.